67.2. All right, tonight we have a special guest, Erica Muse. Hey, Erica. And we're going to talk about chocolate. So my wife will not watch our show because she's a liberal, as I am. And she's afraid. She likes Lance. She likes all of us. She's afraid if she hears Lance ranting about conservative stuff that she will end up not liking him. So, but even though she doesn't watch the show, she does bake for us. And today she made maybe her best thing. It's in a tie with her lemon squares, her flourless chocolate cake.
Can you kind of show that?
Yeah. And Lance was so happy.
Well, I'll explain it.
Okay.
Because it's kind of, this is kind of a man should make his own confessions. Now, when these people descend upon my studio, I hide the really good stuff. So I had just bought this big bar of Lindt chocolate, milk chocolate, and I put it in a drawer so they couldn't find it. And when they brought the cake over, I felt bad, and I went and I got this. So I was explaining to Rick, and this is where our greatest debate, our greatest disagreement
It's about to happen.
Yeah. I maintain that milk chocolate is superior, and Rick thinks, go ahead, Rick, explain.
Milk chocolate is for babies who can't handle dark chocolate. Dark chocolate is the truly delicious chocolate.
Okay, the first thing I said to Rick was that studies have been performed on this, and they found that men prefer milk chocolate and women prefer dark chocolate. So, naturally, I questioned his manhood, and my argument is this: dark chocolate just tastes like sugar with cocoa, and it has a kind of a thin, sharp, harsh quality to it.
Yeah, the sharpness is the great part. Milk chocolate tastes soft and dull.
Well, okay, the whole point of chocolate is that it be kind of luscious and luxuriantly creamy, and the texture is vitally important. And you don't get that with that kind of
it takes
granulated
longer. Dark chocolate takes longer to melt in your mouth. This kind of goes into the area of the genius Adam Carolla's theory of the yummy phase, which I think we've talked about it before. But Carolla has a theory that real men grow up and grow out of stuff that tastes good, and they learn to like stuff that doesn't taste so good. Like, real men go from milky, sugary coffee to black coffee. Real men learn to like whiskey. Real men learn to like cigars. Stuff that is pretty harsh. Real men have acquired tastes. And I would make the further argument, Carolla's he's libertarian, leaning conservative these days. And I would bet that you could get Carolla to make the argument that conservatism, with its harsh arguments, its zero-sum games, its harsh truths, is akin to, growing up and becoming conservative, is akin to growing out of the yummy phase. When he'd argue that liberalism, with its something nice for everyone, is a babyish idea. I'd argue against that, but I could see the argument being made.
All right, I'm going to turn serious.
Just real quick before you do that, just quick housekeeping. Can you let us know where you are with the painting real quick, Lance, and what's happening here tonight?
Okay, actually, before I tell you about that, okay, I'm going to forget if I don't ask Erica. Erica, now we've kept this in a sealed envelope. Erica, which chocolate do you prefer?
It's a tough one, but probably milk chocolate.
But you did say off camera
dark chocolate is healthier. Dark chocolate is a lot healthier than
that's
and
true.
White chocolate.
Well, white chocolate. What do you think? Wait a minute. What do you think about white chocolate? Wait a minute. What do you think about white chocolate? Erica?
It's too milky.
Yeah,
Too much
it's a
milk.
super duper bullshit. It has zero cocoa in it. White chocolate is bullshit. Caramel is also bullshit because it looks like it should taste chocolatey, and your brain, I didn't even realize till a few years ago that caramel doesn't even have chocolate in it. It's just burnt sugar.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know it till, I don't know.
But you know everything about plutonium.
Well, yeah. I was a physics major, not a frickin' confectioner.
Well, all right. I'm gonna just tell you that I like white chocolate. I think best of all.
Ugh.
So I'm still in the yummy phase, and if there is,
Me too, for the most
if
part.
there are any young, unspoiled women out there that would like to help me through this phase, I know we have billions of listeners. I'm waiting for one of them to come help me through this phase. Now, the question you posed was about, what was it? Oh, where we are in the painting. All right, so what happened is this. I'm going to be a little too honest right here, but what the hell? I've disgraced myself over and over again on this show. So I am trying to warm up the flesh a little bit because I think it's too cool. And I don't have the right light, and much is expected of me. So I feel like at this point pretty desperate about the painting. If this was a docudrama, this would be the exciting point, because I don't feel good about the piece anymore. And so I'm just trying to warm up the flesh, and I don't know if I can do it.
Well, let me give background. One of Lance's students who has...
Oh, wait a minute.
Well, can I give somebody
No,
with a... Okay.
no. Jesus.
What?
Blabbermouth.
All right.
All right.
Let me say this.
Wait. I should not expect it. Okay. If he's going to talk about masturbation, I guess
not.
you can humiliate me. Go ahead. Tell him.
One of your students said, "Boy, it looks pretty green." And I've been in the painting, and I argued against Lance changing it. I'm super pale, and I'm a Jew, and Jews have kind of olive toned skin, and when you have a pale Jew, the skin tends to look greenish. The veins are just underneath the skin. You can see all these veins, they're greenish blue, and overall, I think I have a greenish hue. And I tend to think Lance didn't need to make me less green, but Lance wanted to warm me up. So.
Lance, could it be, how is this painting the longest it's ever taken you to make a painting?
Yeah. And what I'm doing is this. I'm looking at every point on the painting where it's just a little teeny bit greener than it needs to be, and I'm adding a kind of a reddish orange.
And this is actually, I think, a good thing, even though I disagree with it, because the more layers you have, semi-transparent, your skin, the surface of your skin is not opaque. You can see into your skin a little bit, even if it's maybe only a couple tenths of a millimeter, or in the case of veins, you can see into the veins a little. So you don't just see the surface of the skin, you're looking beneath it to some small extent, and you can semi-replicate the translucence of the skin with this layering. So I'm hoping this will make this a masterpiece that survives the test of time until super intelligent robots learn to paint better than humans ever could.
All right, I think.
Or humans augmented with biocircuitry
Okay.
in like 22 years.
Just real quick, in terms of the painting, and this question's for you, Lance, because you've never taken so long in a painting, is this a whole new dynamic for you in terms of like you see it every week? And is this maybe something that you're going to implement in the future, where you're going to take longer so you can check out more details, more nuances, or is this maybe something that that you would recommend to an artist? Instead of taking 6 weeks on on a painting take a year, like we've taken in this painting. And you want to comment on that? Or?
Well, I've explained a few times that because we get in these terrible arguments, I haven't been getting much done. I've really only been working a half an hour a week. I've done lots of figure paintings like this, and when I'm paying a model and I'm working as best I can, I generally get them done in 100 hours, which could be 20 days of 5-hour poses. So, and the model gets a rest, they may come twice a week. So this should not have happened. And I hate to say, you were coming up with sort of a romantic suggestion that the more time you spend on things, that it may be a good thing. But the thing is, when you've done like 10 figures like this, you sort of know how long they take to do a good job. And I don't think spending, I can tell you this much. I will spend a year on a painting if it has other elements, like if there was 2 or 3 figures in it. I'm happy to spend a year. In other words, there's no reason not to spend a year on something if it takes a year. But as far as this painting goes, it's a combination of the fact that we're doing a show and other sort of unforeseen circumstances, the light, and that has taken up too much time.
I have 2 things to say. Sometimes having too much time gives you an opportunity to screw things up. Sometimes you reach an optimal level of quality and you have to keep fiddling, and then that's sometimes when you make...
Well, I don't think that I'm going to hurt this by trying to warm up the skin.
Well, I've screwed up things by spending too much
Yeah,
time.
I mean,
like my life.
Yeah, no, I mean, you certainly that's a maxim about all creating of art. By the way, my father and Blake Edwards wrote the Pink Panther in, I think, 2 weeks on the Queen Mary. On the trip from London to New York on the Queen Mary, they wrote the Pink Panther, however long that takes, 2 weeks.
That's
a week,
awesome. That's
10 days or
2
something.
guys. It's 1961. They're one's sitting at the typewriter, the other's saying stuff, and the frickin' there are guys walking around outside the porthole with bowlers and those glasses that pinch your nose.
And not only that, I have pictures of them in a stateroom, both of them wearing tuxedos.
Oh, sweet.
They wore tuxedos on the ship, and then went back to their cabins and wrote one of the top comedies of all time.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
All right, one more thing though. I just realized this is socialism, Lance. You're getting my services for free, my modeling services, in return for participating in this project. That just seems like not like capitalism.
Oh yeah, no, I mentioned earlier that this came up this week. A very stupid person on Facebook that knows I'm a Republican said that it wrote a long, several-page thing that just went down to basically saying, Democrats are nice, Republicans are mean. And because I'm mean, my art is bad. And I mean, he said it in a more complicated way, but everybody was laughing at him, and I didn't even respond because it was so ridiculous. But I don't think that being a Democrat or a Republican makes your art good or bad. I think you can be a good person and be a Democrat or Republican. I think you can be a good artist and be a Democrat and a Republican. So it's really childish. And I just like to make a note to all those people that are ending their friendships with people because they voted for Trump or they voted for Hillary. I think you're all a bunch of idiots.
Hitler was a great artist.
No, Hitler was mediocre. But he wasn't a terrible artist, right, Lance?
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I just wanted to.
You can look him up you can Google his art.
Well, what's funny about it is this. Hitler did very, very tight meaning very realistic and carefully drawn images of architecture around the city,
Oh.
little watercolors, and Winston Churchill actually did impressionist landscapes in the manner of the French Impressionists.
But Hitler,
So
don't
both
you?
of them were artists.
Yeah, but don't you think Hitler's stuff was better than Churchill's? I've looked at both of them.
The truth is that they were both sort of
You can't.
dilettantes. What is dilettante a word for somebody that's just sort of starting out and trying to?
No, somebody who's doing it in a not serious, kind of half-assed way.
Yeah, well, they were at the beginning of their artistic journey, and I maintain, and this is a good time for me to say this. Anything that you see in my studio, I can teach someone to do. So it's kind of an unfair question. I think anybody can learn, meaning anything that I have painted, I can teach somebody else to paint.
Case in point, because we've talked about this off camera. George W. Bush became a painter after his time as president, and his paintings are actually pretty charming and daring in certain ways. He has painted himself naked at least twice. You don't see a lot of him, but he's painted a view of himself in the shower. He's painted a view of himself in the tub. He's painted lots of dogs. But Lance claims, and I believe him, that they're not the best paintings. They're obviously amateurish. But Lance claims if he could get a hold of George Bush.
Well, let me finish because it's my thing.
Okay,
I
sure.
can explain it.
Yep.
Okay, this is what happened to George Bush. George Bush came under the instruction of somebody that greatly admired Lucian Freud. Now, since this is an intellectual show, I'll tell you, those of you who don't know anything about art, Lucian Freud is a very popular English painter who died recently, who does very, very clumsy work. And I think that he got famous because he became wildly successful because he's the nephew of Sigmund Freud.
His stuff sells for $10 million.
Yeah. And there is no reason to believe his work is any good. It doesn't matter what you read or what anybody says about it, it's lousy. And it's painted in a very childish way. But what happened is poor George Bush got an instructor. He did have an instructor, but the instructor was a fan of Lucian Freud. So now this is the interesting part. George Bush paints like Lucian Freud. In fact, I actually did a little talk about it once where I showed slides of Lucian Freud and George Bush. And I don't think there was a dip down in quality most of the time. So what I did was I wrote a letter to the Bush Library, and I said, I would be happy to take over art instruction for George Bush. I'd be honored, and I could get him to paint like Rembrandt. I never got any reply because I guess they were kind of insulted, like, why would he need art instruction? He's so good. But that's me, bull in a china shop. Here I am trying to help him. That's like saying to some woman, I'm really sorry. I could help you with the plastic surgery, if you need it. So I don't think I made a good impression. But no, I could get George Bush to paint I could get him to paint as well as me.
Well, hold on now.
Whatever I can do, I can get someone else to do.
And he can get you to do it. Now, there are certain techniques that Lance can teach you that you can learn, but he won't do it for free. Lance has a very affordable video series that you can buy.
No, actually, it gets worse. I actually teach by video now. I can teach by video.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, in other words, I paint and then I look at the other person's painting all by video. But let's stop selling Lance for a minute. Let's get on to no, they get it. Let's go on to a new subject.
Couple $100, you can acquire $10,000 worth of art education from this guy here, LanceRichland.com.
Well,
I have two.
Okay, go ahead.
Two real quick things.
Yeah.
Would it be possible for maybe to have a package deal where somebody from the U.S. is watching our show from somewhere in the world could fly down, Rick would give them a lesson for a price, and then they get to be on the show as well?
Sure.
Wait, Rick would give them a
I
lesson?
mean, Lance, sorry.
That seems like a deal you might make.
I'll do anything for money.
I can teach you, and I can offer a lesson for roughly $100. I can teach you the secret to raising your SAT score by hundreds of points, or your ACT score by like 10 points. So, hey,
And then one last thing, can we start a movement, maybe start tonight, where let's see if we can get, anybody listening, get a movement where we can get Lance to paint Trump's presidential picture at the end of his term. Would that be, what do you think about that?
there's nobody who, I mean, you'd be ideal to paint Trump's portrait.
You know, I don't know, because does he want to be associated with a ne'er-do-well like me? I mean, if people think Manafort was scandalous, God knows what they'd find out.
You do look like Manafort,
about
so
my
you might
past.
trigger Trump by resembling.
You know, I haven't been. I don't know if they'd associate with me with the Nazi movement, or God knows what they'd find out about me.
Would that be something?
I
you would
kissed
be
a
willing to
girl
do?
once. I can tell you that much.
Would that be something that you would be willing to do?
To paint Trump, I would be honored to paint Trump. I think he's the best president of my lifetime.
Oh my God.
I think he's actually. You know what he did this week? I mean, he just never stops doing good things. He
and other things.
he actually
Grabbed another woman.
this week he actually put South Africa on notice because they were passing a law that they were going to take all the land away from the Boer farmers, from the white farmers, and just take it.
Oh God.
And they were going to turn the economy into something like Zimbabwe's.
So,
And they murder 49 Afrikaner farmers a week.
okay, this is crazy racist bullshit. But
No, it isn't crazy racist bullshit.
You're saying that-
there is a genocide against the Afrikaners.
you're saying that
in South Africa.
2,500 Afrikaners are murdered a year. No frickin' way. 49 a week equals 2,500 a year.
Right, and what I'm telling you is the number 49 came up. I don't know if it was 49 a week or 49 a month, but thousands of Afrikaners have been murdered.
We'll have to break it.
Both
and look it up.
Australia and Russia have decided to give refugee status to the South African farmers that are trying to escape South Africa. They don't even have the money to leave South Africa. They're being wiped out.
All right, so this is a good time to break because we got to look this stuff up. Right.
All right.
Gotcha.
All right, 67.3. We forgot to resolve the Hillary's emails downloaded by China issue. You want to go first?
Okay. There's not a lot to debate about this. The intelligence community's Inspector General in 2015 found that a Chinese company had hacked Hillary's emails so that they were receiving the emails in real time. So every email that she sent out, the Chinese government was reading. The ICIG reported this to the FBI. The FBI did nothing, and now the FBI is saying that they weren't hacked.
All right, so we each read 2 articles. You maybe read more, but I read one that was from Fox News or from Daily Caller, which is a conservative journalism website, by way of Fox News. That said that pretty much the way it was written indicated that it for sure happened. Then I read a USA Today article that said that it maybe happened and that the FBI denies it. That being said, I think there's a significant chance that China did hack Hillary's emails, but I think there's a significant chance that China has hacked all sorts of government stuff that people have said, and I don't know, I haven't read a lot about it, but that Hillary's private server was really no less secure than a lot of government servers, and that frickin' China has, probably sees much of our purportedly top secret stuff, which is not good, and it doesn't exonerate Hillary, but it's
Okay.
not definitive that she was hacked.
I can assure you that government emails with government servers have a high level of security compared to what Hillary had. Hillary actually brought in a Chinese company that worked on her server or something, and then they hooked it up with the Chinese government. And this is the reason that the only thing that Rick has right now is a statement from the FBI saying, it's almost like one paragraph saying, no, that didn't happen. But
I think it probably happened.
The intelligence.
All right, we don't need to argue about it. I think it
said
probably
that
happened.
it did happen, and that it endangered American lives, and that it was the kind of thing that had to be prosecuted. If literally.
Nah.
Well, what do you mean now? Who the fuck are you to say nah?
The guy's saying nah.
Okay, thank you. If your emails higher than top secret, not top secret, higher than top secret, are being read in real time by America's greatest enemies, you need to be investigated and do time. You need to be prosecuted.
Lock her up. Don't worry about Trump stuff. Lock Hillary up.
Well, if Trump did this, if Trump was making sure that all of our top highest secrets were being read by the Chinese, then yes, I would say prosecute him. Unfortunately, I'm not brainwashed, but because you are, you can't accept the possibility that somebody that gives higher than top secret intelligence to the Chinese by carelessness, we don't know.
So wait,
That should not be prosecuted.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. Were her emails hacked, or did she give that information to the Chinese? Like, which is it?
Hacked.
Were they hacked, or did she purposefully give that information to the Chinese?
Hacked. But do we lock up Colin Powell too? Because he had used his private service.
Nothing.
So my question is, if you're getting hacked by someone, would you go ahead and delete all of that information to make sure that they don't get any more information? Because if the answer is yes, then maybe she made the right decision to go ahead and delete everything.
All right, well, let me answer that for you. We believe, okay, it's against the law for a government official to have their own server in an apartment.
It wasn't at
Okay.
the time, no.
Yes, it was.
Well, then lock up Colin Powell too. When did they make it?
Fine. It is illegal. In fact, we know that it's
and
illegal.
Condoleezza Rice.
Okay, Rick.
All right, I'm sorry, I'm doing whataboutism, but go ahead.
Rick, you're just interrupting me, so I can't answer a
No,
question.
go ahead.
We know that it's illegal because when Hillary Clinton took office, she sent a letter around the State Department saying none of you can send any emails about American secrets on anything but a government server. This was a circular signed by Hillary Clinton because it was so important not to use unsecured servers.
Did she say by law, or did she say just?
It is against the law, Rick. It is against the law.
All right. So one more thing.
But wait, I'm not done. So for her to deliberately open up her own server means that she knowingly decided to do this, knowing that it was against the law, and then put secrets on it that were above top secret level. Now what that does is all right, go ahead.
All right. So you're also saying that because she hasn't been prosecuted, that there was a deep state conspiracy to let her off the hook.
No. What I'm going to tell you
No.
wait. The reason that I think she did this is because she obviously was trying to keep things secret from she obviously had something she was trying to keep secret. And I think it was because she was selling influence.
All right, so deep state conspiracy.
Like the
I said.
$150 million that she got for the Clinton Foundation after signing away our plutonium.
All right, so deep state conspiracy, Hillary conspiracy. As I said, my theory about
Well, it's not
Hillary-
much. It's not much of a conspiracy, Rick. That's what happened.
No, you like to say it, but I mean,
Now, did she set up a private server?
yeah, she did.
Were her emails on a non-government server?
Yes,
Were they hacked by the Chinese?
possibly, probably.
Were any of them above top secret level, the higher level than top secret? Were any of them?
Perhaps.
Well,
Because I haven't read the articles.
There
but
were
you
there
have.
were there were 22 email chains that were.
So,
So that's not a big deal to you. It's fine. Hey, it's fine. Nothing to see here. No problem.
So which is it? What is your stance? You think Hillary fucked up, or she was somehow conspiring with the Chinese for personal gain?
No, I think
That's
what
what I don't-
I think what happened was this. If you look at her record, she was selling influence when she was the head of the State Department. And what that means is this: she had the ability to approve deals, to give aid to other countries. And so what happened was countries would contribute to her foundation. And then they would mysteriously get their deal passed by the American government. It would be approved by the Secretary of State, which is who she was. So it was an elaborate system of bribery. And obviously she couldn't conduct that business on a government server because then it would be read by other government officials. So she opened up a private secret server where she could conduct her business and accept bribes. That is my opinion.
all right, my opinion.
Gotcha.
And I said it earlier is the Clinton sloppy versus deep state conspiracy. And let me give another example from the Clintons that the Clintons are loud. Like I was always disappointed in Bill. Like Ronald Reagan was called, and you're too young to know this, was called the Teflon president. No scandal stuck to him until the end of his administration. He was called the great communicator. He was a charming guy. He had great hair. He was folksy. He was a cowboy. He looked great on a horse. And he was just charming. And he got away with a lot of stuff. And then Clinton comes into office, and he gets away with nothing, basically. He does serve out his 2 terms, but he gets totally tarred along the way. Everything he did, every woman he humped, every real estate thing got investigated. Just he was not Teflon at all.
Everything he did to other people in other countries.
Well, just he seemed he got in a lot of trouble. He was and they were really bad at running defense. The Clintons, they needed somebody on staff to say, "Hey, this is going to look really bad." They just didn't worry about that. For instance, the Clintons spent $3 million on their daughter Chelsea's wedding. And that which could lead to, there was one little, not really a scandal because only one person said it. Somebody said that, they were taking money illicitly from their foundation. And I don't know, and it needs to be investigated. And it's like somebody working for the Clintons, there are people in the Marines who are called Red Team members. And these people are tasked, probably in all branches of the military, with looking at plans and trying to figure out all the different ways that the plans could fuck up. Because we've had some fuck ups in the last few decades of American history in terms of wars, foreign policy. And the Clintons needed a Red Team member to say, hey, you're spending $3 million on this frickin' wedding? Don't you think that's going to look kind of bad? Maybe cut it down to 800 grand. But no, nobody. So I think Clinton's sloppy. I don't think that. I mean, there's a chance that any kind of there's like a 1 or 2% chance any conspiracy can be turn out to be true. But I think they're more sloppy than conspiratorial. That's just my opinion. All right, what's our next thing?
Well, Meghan McCain made some news. I mean, it was her dad's funeral and stuff.
This week, just all this week has been McCain funeral week.
She said during the eulogy, she talked about how and McCain's America was always great, which can be. How do you feel about that, Lance and Rick?
It was a rebuttal of Trump saying America needs to be made great again.
Okay, my response is this. I've had it up to here with McCain. Unfortunately, I voted for him because I thought he was better than Obama. But since then, what should have happened was this: he should have retired about 10 years ago, because I think he's been I think the brain tumor that ultimately killed him might have been operating long before that. He's done everything he can to help illegal immigration in Arizona. 2, he is responsible single-handedly for the keeping of Obamacare. In other words, he
cast the deciding
vote to keep Obamacare against all of the other Republicans and the president who campaigned to get rid of it.
The wishes of the American people who decided.
No. If we wanted Obamacare, we would not have elected Trump. And so he broke with his party on that. And then he created the McCain-Feingold bill, which is what made it impossible for poor people to run for office, because they can't get. The McCain-Feingold bill was a bill that was supposed to get money out of politics. And so what happened was it put a limit on how much you could contribute to a politician. So you couldn't buy a politician. You couldn't buy a candidate. But it sounded like a good idea, but in practical effect, what happened was there were no limits to how much money you could spend on your own campaign. So as a result, we've got more millionaires in Congress now than we've ever had before.
Well, that's bad.
Because what happens is, if you're a poor person, you now cannot go to, say, 3 or 4 rich people and say, look, this is what I'd like to do. Will you support me? Because it's against the McCain-Feingold bill. And furthermore, all of these campaign finance laws that are being broken now are because of the McCain-Feingold bill, because it's so complicated that every single campaign breaks some law trying to get elected. So as a result, politics is more corrupt because of the McCain-Feingold bill. Finally, the guy was irascible. He was uncooperative with Trump. All of the Republicans that ran against Trump, at least Ted Cruz, for example, realized, look, he's the president now. He's our guy, and we have to cooperate with him. Not McCain. He was anti-Trump to the day he died and beyond it. So I was listening to the eulogies of McCain, and I kept thinking to myself, wait a minute. Is there time for me to show up at the funeral and rebut? Wait a minute. There's another side on this McCain guy. I think if he'd retired 10 years earlier, he would have been fine. But he's been an irascible old fool for the past 10 years. Right. And I'm glad he's out of the Senate.
All right. So
I'm sorry that it took the Grim Reaper to make that happen.
Let me rebut the tumor messed him up deal. For somebody with a tumor, he's been, regardless of what you think of his policies, and I don't know much about McCain-Feingold, but obviously it was a failed effort, maybe a work in progress. It did, politics is more fucked up by money now than ever before. I'm sure Citizens United has something to do with that too. But he remained articulate, as far as we can tell, right to the end. I'm not sure his entire autobiography has come out yet. It was co-authored, but he read a couple chapters on tape. He seems to have retained his verbal faculties right to the end.
Okay.
I mean, but that's
All right, what else should we do?
We need to clean up the South African farm murders.
The South African.
All right, so you said that 49 white farmers are killed every week. So we looked it up, and the statistics are between the years 1990 and 2012, which covers 22 years in South Africa, 361,000 people were murdered, which, I don't know, South Africa doesn't seem to be like the most crime-free country. It seems, super rapey, and I don't know how their murder rate stacks up. But anyway, out of 361,000, 1,500 of those murders were of farmers, which is less than 0.5%. And rather than 49 farmer murders a week, 49 was the total number of murders in the 2015-2016 murder season. 49 in a year. That was the lowest year, but it hasn't been over 100 in a year, farmer murders in a year, since 2003. So it's generally around 70, 80 a year. And of the murders, 61% of the murders are of whitey, 33% are of black people, and the remaining percentages are of I guess, mixed race or Asian. So it's a much lower rate, and it's not all whitey.
Why are they being murdered?
The article suggests that in a lot of cases, it's for robbery. South Africa is a fairly dangerous country. I would assume, especially if you're out in the countryside. So, it would be hard to... The rate, it's not a white genocide. And there may be some murders that are racially based, but it would be hard to in the article that I read, there was no separating out the possibly racially based murders, but it's under 100 a year farmer murders, not 2,500 a year. Lance?
Okay, in his liberal naivete, he read a Wikipedia article.
That was chock full of statistics.
All those
Which I would trust more than Fox News, but
okay.
Proceed.
All of those statistics are written by, if you look at who supplied them, they're written by the South African government. Those were provided by the South African government. And they're full of lies.
All right, that's a disqualifying. I mean, it doesn't 100% disqualifying, but it does.
The South African government had a bill this week in their their governmental body, their parliament, to take all the land away from all white people. So all property. If you own a TV, if you own land, if you own a house, the government was going to take it from you.
Okay, hold on.
If you were white, that was the bill.
So if you live in,
if you live in a city, it wouldn't matter. They get it. It becomes the government's, and they were going to take all property of all white people and redistribute it to the Africans, to the Zulus, the blacks in Africa.
All right, that sounds like crazy bullshit. I mean, we can look it up.
But you see, that is a verifiable bill that was in their parliament.
We should take a look at that bill.
Because you can't take my word for it.
No, because you cherry pick a lot.
Okay.
And I'm sure the bill didn't pass, even if it was in our parliament.
The reason it has been reevaluated is because Trump said that, because Trump found out about it and said, this doesn't seem right. I'm going to ask my Secretary of State, Pompeo, to reevaluate our relationship with South Africa if they continue this policy of persecution of the the Boer farmers and population of that country. Now, there is a mass exodus from South Africa of the Boers. The Boers are the descendants of the Dutch. And this is going to come up because everybody thinks this, and it's worth mentioning. There has been tremendous antipathy between the blacks and the Boers in South Africa. Partly it was the fault of the British, who took over South Africa after beating the Boers, the Dutch.
But 1898 or something.
In the 19th century. Now, it's important to understand, if you look into this, that much of South Africa was underpopulated. The people that moved into South Africa were from the north. They were the Zulus. And they came in, and through a process of, there was conflict, there was cooperation, there were a series of incursions. But basically, the Boers of Holland, they were from Holland, and they brought a very high degree of development, of sophistication, technologically, architecture, guns, whatever. And so they were there from the 17th century. And they built up South Africa. So it was the most advanced area on the continent of Africa. They allowed the Zulus to move in. And there were some black Africans there, but they were actually wiped out by the Zulus. The Zulus were a very dangerous tribe of people. They had a whole empire in South Africa, a warrior. They were the first warrior-type empire, the most dangerous.
All right, they're good fighters and they're
militant. But before them, the tribes of Africa in that area were not as dangerous or violent. The Zulus were especially so. But the point is that these white farmers aren't occupying Zulu land. They've been there for 300 years. Now, that's not to say that there hasn't been discrimination against the blacks.
When did apartheid
I'm
start?
sure there's been tremendous discrimination. But what's been happening is the whites imperfectly, with a lot of mistakes, have been trying to keep that little enclave of their homes and cities in South Africa. And when the government became one man, one vote, obviously the Zulus took over.
So what percent of South Africa is white? What percent is mixed? What percent is black?
It's about 8% white, about 3% Asian meaning from India, and the rest are black. And what's happening is actually, I'll make it very brief. This happened in Rhodesia in the 90s. The same law was passed by Mugabe, where they took all the land and all the property from the whites in Rhodesia, and Rhodesia collapsed. It virtually collapsed. So this policy is not going to help the blacks any more than it's going to help the Afrikaners.
Okay, Boers. So what I want to do is, I don't know if we need to break now. We had another topic. What was our?
Well, I think that.
But I want to look it up and then we'll discuss again.
I mean, you don't have to go all the way to South Africa. How about what happened in Florida with DeSantis and the comment that he made?
Oh God, do we have to talk about that?
Apparently, sure.
Okay.
All right. So you have two candidates for governor right now of Florida. You got Ron DeSantis and Gillum on the Democratic side. Gillum's African American. Ron DeSantis said, "Don't monkey this up by voting for Gillum, the black guy." Ron DeSantis but said that's not a racist thing. That's just an expression, a common expression. Ron DeSantis also was found to be running a website that featured a lot of racist memes. The guy does not back down from, he says it's not racist, but he doesn't apologize for saying things that can be interpreted without too much effort, as racist.
Okay. This is what happened. There's an actual recording of what he said. He said that the economy is going beautifully in Florida because they had a great governor, Rick Scott, and there are a lot of good things going on. That the candidate that opposes him is going to bring in a lot of socialist programs, and he said, you don't want to monkey up the progress we've made. Yeah, and only a kook would say that a guy was racist for saying that. That is my opinion, and every reasonable person I've ever met has said, don't monkey around with this, don't monkey around with that. And it is a measure of how vile the Democrats are, that they would take this and run with it and convince poor brainwashed people like you that this guy is a racist because he used the phrase monkey up something. It's disgusting, Rick.
It was racist.
What?
It was racist to say don't monkey it up, and it was a very bad time to say don't monkey it up. You can say that at a party, but you don't say that in that context. It was very racist.
Hey, listen. Where you're sitting there, right there, be careful. Because there's a cup full of cigarettes there, and I don't want you to monkey that up and knock it over because it would spill on the floor.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Is that racist?
Yeah.
That analogy.
Well, I mean, you're using,
That's what he said. That's what he said, and you Democrats make me sick.
All right. So again, I like math. So go to a thesaurus and look up.
Oh, by the way, they have recordings of Obama saying that phrase. There's a recording of Obama saying that phrase a year ago. It's on tape.
Right.
I can play it for you.
Did he say it in the context of running against a black person?
You can't run against a black person now because everything you say could be racist?
But go to your thesaurus if you want. How many different phrases are?
I can't say don't monkey around this. Don't monkey around with this easel. Because if I do that, I'm a racist.
Well, are you running against?
You know what, Rick? I'm going to tell you something.
Wait, let me finish my point. Let me finish.
I'm going to
go
say
to your
something.
thesaurus. How many different ways are there to say don't screw this up?
I don't think of black people as monkeys. It doesn't enter my head. So the fact that the Democrats are doing this makes me sick.
But it has to have entered your head because
I watched the news and I heard the Democrats coming up with this shit. You should be ashamed of yourselves.
Well, as a black person, that is one of the insults. Maybe you don't look at black people as monkeys, but there are racists who call black people monkeys. So
have you ever heard anybody say, hey, don't monkey around with that? Has anybody ever said that to you?
I don't hear that phrase very often.
That's the
thing. I don't hear that phrase very often, don't monkey something up. But in that context, that's just not something that
it's not an uncommon.
He could have used any other.
He had a lot of other.
So many other.
Let me ask you a question. Because this is the really weird part about it. Supposing he did say that.
Supposedly he did.
No, he did. There's a recording of him saying that.
Okay.
Supposing he said, don't monkey around with that because he thinks black people are monkeys. Mm-hmm. Now, or actually, this is my question. Why would he say that? What benefit? How is he going to get more votes?
Maybe
if he accuses black people of being monkeys.
Yeah, maybe.
Don't vote for this guy because he's a monkey. Is that what you think he was doing?
People like to call that a dog whistle.
So wait,
even more than a dog whistle. So
there's all these white people in Florida that are going to say, hey, he called this guy a monkey, so I'm going to vote for him. He's got my vote. Is that what you think?
I don't think people say racist things for votes.
Well, then why did he say it?
Because people say racist things.
No,
I'm not saying he did it for votes, and of course, he's not going to get any black votes for saying what he said.
So he was looking at his opponent, and he was thinking, this guy wants to change the policies of the governor. So I'm going to say that other people in general should not monkey with those policies, because deep down, I think my opponent is a monkey.
Maybe another silly, ignorant Republican joke.
But it wasn't funny. Nobody was laughing at it. I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's a joke. I think he was saying, don't monkey with those policies. Why? In other words, what does he get out of it? Why would he say, my opponent? Why doesn't he just say, look, hey, all racists vote for me. I think my opponent's a monkey.
That would be nice.
Why didn't he just say that?
That would be nice.
Well,
would you prefer that?
that's more. You
So-
want
That's
with a
more
dog
honest.
whistle. You want
a dog whistle.
You want deniability.
Okay, but do you think there's people out in Florida saying, he's my man, he thinks this guy's a monkey, so he's got my vote. I'm for him because he hates black people. He thinks they're monkeys.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I think there are people in Florida. I mean,
There's
it's
people who
freaking
would
Florida.
love that. You know, there have been 3 riots in Charlottesville.
I mean, Florida
because they feel
is.
that Trump is more for white people and less against people of color, so they cheer him on as they beat up black people.
So what does he do to black people?
What?
He
What does
puts
Trump
up.
do to black people?
Oh, you want to talk about black employment? Let's do that.
Well, he empowers people who don't like black people.
How does he do that? And who are those people?
Those people in Charlottesville, the KKK.
The alt-right.
Trump
people.
empowers the KKK?
Well, he
Yes,
says when
with
he
his
said there were
rhetoric,
good people
yes,
on.
absolutely
Very
with
good
his
people on
rhetoric.
both sides.
How did he tell me the rhetoric where he said the KKK was good? That he supports the KKK.
Well,
Tell
when
me.
David
I
Duke
want the
supported,
speech.
when David Duke supported him, he didn't disavow Duke's.
Yes, he did.
Eventually, maybe.
I
but not-
can play you 10 recordings of him disavowing the KKK.
Yeah, it took a while.
Took a while. He was saying it every single day after they brought it to his attention. I can find you 10 recordings right now. Okay? Trump disavowed the KKK at least 10 times.
How long did it take him to disavow?
As soon as he found out.
Are you sure? How do you know when he
Yes,
found out? How do you
because
know
I
when
heard
he?
a report on it.
How do you know when he
I heard the
fo-
recordings. I heard his voice. I heard him say within 24 hours, I, Donald Trump, disavow the KKK.
He said that?
Yep. He said it over and over again. And everywhere he went, the Democrat reporters were saying, do you disavow the KKK? And he would say, yes, I do. I disavow the KKK. But the Democrats, like yourselves, you didn't hear that.
And we did, but we know that there was a time delay.
He didn't do it fast enough for you, Rick.
I
mean,
didn't
because
hear
he's-
it at all.
You didn't hear it
honestly.
at all, right? Right.
But
the Democrat media was content to leave you
I don't watch
with
Democrat media.
They left you with the idea that Trump supports the KKK.
No, they did not. No, they did not.
Okay, so you both agree that Trump disavowed the KKK.
Yeah, but Trump is a tweet machine.
I've never heard him disavow the KKK.
So he is in
honestly.
support of the KKK.
Trump is a
I believe
freaking.
that by not disavowing them and by not disavowing them properly, yes, you are supporting.
He disavowed the KKK over and over again. Do I need to play the
No,
recording from my computer?
Let me just say this.
I can
and
put
then
the
we,
computer
all right,
up
all
to
right,
the
no,
microphone.
that's fine.
That would be-
He disavowed the KKK a lot, but I can say this because again, I like math, and you can run an analysis of how Trump feels based on how long it takes him to come out with a tweet or some other form of a public statement.
No, it has nothing
Yeah,
to
you
do with the
can,
amount
man.
of time. He disavowed the KKK within a day or two. It took him a while
Yeah,
to
but
find
he's a
out
rep-
what was going on.
Yeah,
And then he
but-
disavowed them over and over again,
But there's other
speech
shit
after
where
speech.
he responds with a tweet within an hour or 2 hours.
This was during the campaign, and I heard him say, I disavow the KKK within a reasonable amount of time, and I can assure you that I can play you the recordings if you want to hear them. He did it over and over and over again.
Yeah, but I disagree that he did it in a timely fashion. All right, let's
Rick-
move on. Let's move on.
Rick, you don't know how long it took. You don't know. You're just guessing right now.
No, I remember. So we'll move on.
I heard it within a day or two.
Okay, but a day or two is much longer than a lot of his responses. to
I don't
stuff.
think he knew who David Duke was until they got the issue in front of him and said, look, this man, David Duke, is supporting you. He may have been busy. I don't know.
Maybe,
I don't
but
know.
nah,
I don't know
all right.
if it took him a half an hour
All
or
right,
an
so-
hour.
all right, anyway, so we're not
if
gonna-
he said, but I need evidence from you that Donald Trump is in the KKK. I need to see
He's
that.
not. But anyway, we're not
No,
going
no,
to budge.
I'm sick of this.
We're-
I want to see you tell me. You stand there and you say this guy is in the KKK. I want to hear it.
I haven't said that.
Show
That's
me.
ridiculous.
Show me something he's done to support the KKK.
Well, we didn't say that. We didn't say that he's in the KKK. We were just saying that he empowers those
How?
who don't
How does he do
like
that? How
black
does he do
people.
that?
Like when he said there are good people on both sides of the alt-right thing in Charlotte.
After
Yeah,
the
that's not
Charlottesville
what he
thing.
said. He did not say the KKK.
No, he
What-
no, he
no,
didn't.
no,
He said there are
I-
good people. He didn't.
Yeah,
no, hold
let
on.
me-
What,
I heard the phrase. I'll explain to you what it meant. I was on the side he was supporting. I was against tearing that statue down. That's what he meant. He said there are some people that want the statue torn down. They have good motives.
that's
There's-
not what his tweet said. His
No, he
tweet-
said there
he
are
was
good-
speaking. There was a fight. There was a riot. In Charlottesville, and he was speaking about that. And he said that there were good people on both sides, which is not the right thing to say when you have KKK and people who don't like black people hitting black people and fighting black people and shouting, "Go back to Africa." That's just not something you say. There are good people on both sides.
Okay, this is what happened. It was a beautiful statue. It's been there for 100 years. There were people that were saying, look, we need to take a vote on this. You can't just tear down public statues. If I'd have been there, I'd have been one of those people saying, no, you can't tear
Would
these
you have been
statues
one
down.
of the people marching down the street shouting, "Jews will not replace us"?
No.
Maybe he
But
wasn't
he
clear
wasn't
about-
referring to the KKK.
Yeah, but he wasn't
He
referring-
was saying the same thing I say now. Please let me get my point across.
Well, you've made
No,
it
I haven't
that
made
they were
it. I
referring to
haven't
the
made it.
statue.
No,
but we-
there are good people that want the statue torn down, and there are good people that want the statue to stay up.
He was never that
that's
specific.
The disconnect. We agree that he said what he said, but you're saying he said it based on a statue that was being taken down.
But that's what it was about.
And we're saying that it
It
was
turned
because
into a-
of the fight in Charlottesville.
Yeah, it turned
That's
into
the
a
The
disconnect.
statue was in Charlottesville. That's what the riot was about.
You're giving a very generous interpretation.
It's
But-
not generous. The alternative is that Trump thinks that Nazis that murder blacks are good. This is ridiculous. There's no evidence for that. What policies does he have that are imposing murder on
Do you mean
blacks and Jews?
that ICE is now denying passports to U.S. citizens of Mexican heritage?
ICE is denying
Not ICE, but
passports
the immigration department is now, I don't know if it's ICE specifically, but the immigration department is now, there have been a bunch of cases of people of Mexican descent, of
Yes.
Latino ancestry, who are full-on U.S. citizens with U.S. birth certificates who can't get passports. I mean, he's facilitated an atmosphere of racial prejudice. And let's
Rick.
read about the frickin' white exodus.
Rick, did you know I found this statistic out? Do you know that we spend billions and billions of dollars every year to incarcerate illegal aliens that have murdered and raped and robbed in
That's an
California?
exaggeration.
No, billions every year.
Nope.
Billions every year.
Nope.
All right,
no frickin'
let's
way.
look it up.
Okay, we got 2 minutes left. All right, breaking.
Okay, we're going to look up the number that California spends incarcerating illegal aliens.
No.
I said billions. It may not be billions, it may be hundreds of millions. But I'm sure that it is an outrageous amount, and it's to keep illegal aliens in prison for violent crimes. Okay, is that what we're going to look up?
Roughly. I mean, he said rapists and murderers. And most illegal aliens are not in prison for... All right, 67.4. Go ahead.
According May 2017, an article in
National
Review. The U.S. Department of Justice released statistics today regarding aliens incarcerated in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. It found, as of March 25th, there were 41,528 illegal immigrants in its prison system. The cost of the American taxpayer runs into the billions. Let me just keep going. Which is to say, yada, 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 U.S. taxpayers are spending in the ballpark of $1.2 billion per year on the incarceration of illegal immigrants. The Federal Bureau of Prisons spends an average of $29,000 per year on each inmate. Moreover, U.S. taxpayers are footing a bill of roughly $660 million per year, or $1.8 million per day, for inmates who have already received deportation orders.
All right, so before we broke, you said that California spends billions and billions per year on...
Now, and then I said, it
then
may
you
not be in the billions,
retracted.
but it turns out the United States pays $1.2 billion, which means that California has most of the illegal aliens.
Not most of them, no, a plurality.
California
a plurality,
has
not a
more illegal
majority.
aliens than any other state.
Yeah, but maybe 20%. We're only one state, so 20%.
Okay, so you're going to do the math on this.
Because you have to. Because otherwise...
Okay, so 20% of 1.2 billion is how much?
It just is 240 million.
Okay, 240 million at least. This is from a liberal.
No, not at least.
But it might
That's
be
just a
more.
wild
It
guess.
might be more.
It might be less too, because 20% out of all 50
Okay,
states.
I don't want to spend.
It might be 10.
I don't want to spend 1.2 billion a year on illegal immigrants to be incarcerated in our prisons
Also,
Why they're being incarcerated?
well,
for committing crimes.
for crime, but I've read elsewhere, though I don't have a source, that it's mostly for dumb shit crimes. It's not for super
That's
criminal
my question.
crimes.
I understand you.
Well, the
get
most of
arrested.
them, most of the people who, now I don't know if this includes jails as well as prisons, but I've read that most of the illegal immigrants who are imprisoned are imprisoned for immigration crimes rather than super violent crimes like rape and murder and drug running and all that stuff.
Okay, and
But anyway, hold on, let me do a little math. I love math. So 1.2 billion across the whole U.S., which is not billions and billions. It's less than $4 per year for every legitimate American citizen. And I know that's $4 too much for you. But anyway, you exaggerated some. And yeah, okay, so we should deport half of those, the 22,000 who've already been served deportation orders. That seems reasonable. So, and, I mean, we're done. Unless you want to disagree more, but, okay, now what?
There's a big article we should talk about just lastly, and before another thing is the Beto O'Rourke. He's running against Ted Cruz in Texas, and it seems that Donald Trump, who was calling Ted Cruz lying Ted a year and a half ago, now is going to go campaign for Ted Cruz. Any comments on that?
Well, politics makes for strange bedfellows is cliche number one. Any port in a storm is cliche number two. That if Trump can help Cruz win, then Cruz is going to use Trump's help. And sometimes Trump offers help even when it's not needed, but given that it's Texas, Trump will help Cruz get votes, even though Trump has said some horrible shit about Cruz.
I'm
sorry.
I want to wrap it up, guys. I don't know.
All
Our
right.
viewers should know it's 2 a.m.
Do you want to do Voltaire?
Cruz and Trump are allies. They had a bitter campaign. Trump had never run for office, and as a result, I think he was not used to running against a political opponent and got real insulting.
He implied that Cruz's wife was ugly. He said that Cruz's dad helped assassinate JFK.
Right, and I think it was because he's not used to running for office.
Also because he's used to saying
And he
horrible
says,
shit
yeah, he
about
says things about people, but it's a measure of how
Childish.
it's a measure of how how well things are going, that Cruz, who is a great man, and Trump, who is also a great man, are working together to help the United States.
It's a measure of how polarized shit is.
No, they're both Republicans. They're both trying to do the same thing, and they're coming together to help the country. And there's nothing weird or unreasonable about that. I'm very proud of both of them.
And then you can mention the humorous part about how Cruz released photos of Beto O'Rourke when he was in a band in college, including one where he's with his band and he's performing in a dress, just because he's punk or something. And Twitter seemed to think that Beto O'Rourke was pretty hot in college. And my favorite tweet about the whole thing is that apparently Ted Cruz's strategy in releasing these hot college photos of Beto O'Rourke is to make people so busy coming that they forget to vote. The end.
You want to sing Voltaire?
Any last notes, Erica, in terms of your experience tonight? Or?
I'm good. I had fun. I think we should do this again.
Yes,
Yeah.
Please. Thank you for coming.
This time next time we'll have wine glasses.
All
Wine
right.
is very much needed.
All right, very good. Let's give her some light. All right, so there's an eyeful for you. All right, thank you very much, and we'll be happy to have you back, Erica.
Y volver, volver, volver a tus brazos otra vez. Llegar y hasta